I've been there, John, where I felt like stepping into something, and it's usually when it's something that's decreasing and something I don't want to do. I feel I'm in that humble state where I'm going to do it anyways. In this case, I felt weird. Like, what are you doing?
Oh,
I
okay.
felt awkward.
Thanks.
Like,
Yeah,
what?
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
Great.
hey, you don't have to do this.
Hmm.
Why are you even doing this? A matter of fact, you're going to lose money going to work.
Yep.
Great money.
Yep.
And who's going to hold down the fort and all that? But anyways, I went. And what kept me, what I, through observation, looking back, what I seen was Paul was experiencing.
Welcome to the Your Message Received podcast. And now, taking your message to the finish line, your host, John Duffin.
Hey, folks, John Duffin here, Duffin Media. Welcome back to another episode of Your Message Received. Your Message Received is the home, the place, the platform to help you find your most true, authentic business voice. Heck, maybe it's just your most true, authentic voice. Get what you want, find what you need, improve your results, make billions of dollars. That's what today's guest promised he'll do for us.
Yeah.
I might have heard that wrong, but why we get to be here. And we are always grateful when you show up for these episodes is simply this. We're helping people, and we help people by bringing on guests who walk the walk. Today's guest is no exception. And folks, if you have a decent memory, then you may recall that Paul Espinosa and I have spoken before on this podcast, and we get to continue the conversation, which to me is a phenomenal way to get to go. In a very brief intro where I could do way better, our man, Paul Espinosa, is California based, is in book writing mode of a book called Survival of the Psyche, has a tremendous story. You talk about give back. This is a spectacular story of give back and resilience. And I promise you folks, the whole first episode's bio, which I strongly suggest you pay attention to, will be in the bio. So that episode link will be in the bio. Check it out, because again, it will give you a great backstory. But in the meantime, we got more story to tell. Paul Espinosa, thanks so much for showing up for me today, man. Welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Thank you. I'm honored. Really.
Pleasure is mine. I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled you get to be back again. So, folks, we were just doing a little bit of chronological math, and apparently neither one of us are great with timelines. So I had to literally go back and cheat right before we went live. But I will say this. So Paul and I have known each other for about 5 years. And technically, how do we know each other? Sound weird. I slid into his DMs. Is that weird? But I did. And Paul was okay with it. So that to me was already a plus. But I paid attention to Paul based on his story. It wasn't just the tattoos. It was a strong, powerful story. And I'm going to tell you a lot of it that he couldn't necessarily relate to. And again, it's a really interesting backstory. Make certain you check out the first episode. Paul, let me ask you, right off the bat, I want to ask you, in terms of the amount of time in this 5-year progression, like life changes for a lot of things. You brought up a term before we went live in regards to being an observer. And I want to focus on that you saw yourself, especially younger, that you were an observer. I want to ask you, with that, being an observer, somebody who thinks a lot, how did that impact you when you were younger? We'll say, how did it help you? And how did it hurt you? Both. Like, when you were on the younger side, what did that do for the good and for the bad?
Wow, I love that you broke it down that way. That's spot on right there. For one, growing up, before it got kind of shunned or I got kind of laughed at for it. Not ridiculed or nothing that extreme, but I knew keep those dreams and imaginations to yourself.
Why?
Um, huh?
Why?
Because they were way out of my reach. You know, I was a big dreamer. I imagined myself
Yeah.
on TV doing things that were at that time crazy to people around me. Like,
Okay.
man, you're in fantasy land, Paul. You know, and I'm like, all right, maybe I shouldn't share those things.
Mhm.
But nonetheless, I was always in my head, and I think because of everything around me, my surrounding, it was an escape. I got to be in my mind and think, imagine this, imagine that.
Mhm.
And that was young Paul. And then it got kind of disturbed, like I said, but it was always there. So I became real shy.
Mhm.
Uh, and I picked that up because I spent a lot of time with my mom when she was going through nervous breakdowns and different struggles in her life. I seen she was an introvert. She was very shy, and it just dropped on me.
Mhm.
You know, that's what I picked up on. And a lot of times growing up, you probably heard this, kids don't hear what you tell them. They hear what they see, you
Yeah.
know, what you show them.
Yeah.
So I picked up on these little traits
Mhm.
by people closest to me. And so now I'm a shy kid. I'm always in my head.
Mhm.
And as I'm getting older, and I'm going to fast forward and we'll go back too as well. But bringing that into my teenage years and then, you know, getting involved in a gang and stuff like that.
Right. Right.
Um, again, Paul was always Paul, still in his mind. And the thing that it did for me, that I don't know if it was good or bad at the time, but it always, if you could imagine when people say, I feel like I'm in a box, or I don't want to do this or that because I feel like I'm boxed in.
Yep.
That's how I imagined most of my life, being in this box with my head out of it. And I
Mhm.
can see the world around me. And I'm like, man, there's opportunities, there's great things, but in my culture, in my box, those are not things that we should be looking at or wanting, or are they even attainable, you know, for us? So, but Paul was always observant.
Mhm.
So I'm always observing my surroundings, and I'm like, there's possibilities outside of this box, outside of this lifestyle, this culture. But I didn't share it with anybody. Hey, Paul likes that. Paul thinks stories and movies and you know, writing and things of that nature. And I don't have nobody to bounce these things off, these thoughts, because people in my culture, it's about, you know, retaliating on enemies and making money and living that life and to the fullest. And I say this too, um, because it's a reality for me too. I love that lifestyle. I did when I was in it. If you ask Paul, do you love being a gang member and do what you do? I love it. I would say, you know, back then, because it filled in all the voids, all the empty spots that were missing in Paul's life. You know,
For
it
example,
provided it.
what did it fill?
What did it fill?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
For
yeah,
those missing spots in your life, what were
it
the things that it filled?
it filled the financial lack.
Okay.
It filled the attention that I was lacking. All the things that are without even saying or asking that should be in your life that wasn't. It provided all that and some. And it's hard for other people outside of that culture or lifestyle to understand. And we call it homie love.
What's that?
And that's a fellow gang member loving on you. There's no, for us, probably because a lot of us come from lack. When we experience that, it's like, whoa, hey,
Mhm.
there's no other kind of love. Like, wow,
Mhm.
hey, ride or die, I got you. You know, because I love it, the camaraderie and love is so strong.
You just talked about in a recent social post, you were talking about that sense of belonging. Is that
Yes.
what you meant in
It-
regards to that sense of belonging, whether it's, people being on teams, organizations, gangs.
Yes.
Like, is that what you meant?
Yes. And when you're getting it,
Mhm.
you can't see whether it's good or bad, or let alone care. It's just, this feels so strong that that's what locks you in, alongside of the attraction and everything it offers. And for myself, I can't speak for everyone else, but I know for me, for my twin,
Mhm.
at any cost, we were sold. We were all in. We were committed. We knew that, hey, we might die,
Mhm.
we might go to prison, something dramatic may happen, but the love is so thick and real that, we're all in. We're committed to this thing. And because of that, I spent decades in that lifestyle.
Decades.
But
Right.
going back to the box,
Yeah.
in that lifestyle,
Mhm.
Paul's in this box and his head's out. And I'm looking around like, wow, there's another world out here and there's opportunities. But I felt stuck. Like, I couldn't get out of this box.
That so as you describe that, feels a lot more than stuck. Like for me, how mentally, whether it was in a literal sense or in that figurative sense of being in a box and being unable to move, navigate. It's a beautiful description with your head outside of it. How were you able to mentally survive?
Mentally,
Because that's
it
going to
was
be exhausting.
it is, and it's always a battle. It's always a battle because there's people like I say this, and I think it'd be great to say it right now.
Yeah, please.
I looked up to a group of people
Mhm.
that I was attracted and admired, and I liked everything they did, and I wanted to be like them.
Mhm.
And before you knew it, I ended up becoming like them.
Mhm.
And um, so now, but I've learned this through observation of my life as well.
Yes. Right.
I learned this, that we as humans, we play a lot of different roles. John is not just uh, John Duffin Media, John, like that. We may see you as that, and that is one of your roles of many.
Yeah.
I'm sure outside of that, John plays other roles,
Mhm.
Other forms of responsibility, whatever it may be. But I learned that that was a role. It didn't have to define, like, I felt stuck in a sense, and maybe I shouldn't use that, but in my mind, it was like, I play this role well. I'm respected for it. And I love it.
Mhm.
I did love the role, and it came at a great cost. But at the same time, I had I had come to a place later on. You can't take that role where you're going. Like, um, you got other roles to play now.
Mhm.
You're a husband and a father, and I did it, John. I lived playing two roles, and I learned something. When For me, because I was all in, I was 100% gang member and did all the things, and then I started having a family, and I tried playing both, and I did it for years, and it's exhausting.
So I want to focus on two quick things. And saying quick is an odd choice of words for this question, but I'll say it anyway, which is that number one, you said at a cost. Could you identify some of the cost for our audience of playing not just the role, but when you tried to navigate both roles simultaneously? What was the
Okay,
cost?
I'm going to answer that in a twofold answer.
Great. Yeah.
Okay, um, so in my older years, that cost
What do you
playing
call an
both
older, by the
roles.
way? What do you
Excuse
call
me.
an older? What do you call an older? Since you're certainly
For me, because, and then going back to the lifestyle,
right. That's why I'm
you-
asking.
yeah, you never mentally, you're 21 forever
Okay. Right.
because you're
Right.
doing things that a normal 30, 40-year-old wouldn't be doing. You know, you're still, you're selling drugs.
Yeah.
If you need to go rob, you're going to rob. If you need to shoot, you're going to shoot. Those are usually youngster things. But in that lifestyle, you're going to do it till you check out. And now, with that delay,
yeah,
and now jumping into trying to be a family man and raise be a husband and raise kids and still giving a part of yourself to your gang, something has to take a hit eventually. You know, I did it successfully for a long time, I'll say, over 9 years doing both, and it took a hit, and it was my family. It's always the things you care about most. And that's where the rubber met the road for Paul.
Okay.
And I did want to answer it twofold going back then, but I kind of lost the train of thought going back to kind of being young. So I won't, if I remember that, I'll bring it up again.
That's fine.
But yeah, to your question,
it's your family and the things that matter. It's your family and it's the things that matter most. I emphasize that for a reason. I'll ask you on top of that, so when did you realize, and more importantly, like I think like a dumb comparison, but I'll bring it up, like smoking and not smoking, giving up drugs or whatever, and you're like, this is terrible. And then there's often a lengthy process that goes from this is wrong, I can't keep doing this, to I'm going to and actually doing it. So when did you, it's not when did you realize I can't keep doing this. It's how did you stop?
Okay, so when it's very specific time. It's very dramatic. I won't get into the details unless you wanted to hear them, but I know this is a family friendly podcast, but again, we're adults and
Yes, we are.
I got addressed by somebody with a gun, and it wasn't the first time, but it was the first time something snapped in my head where like, wow, you're about to die right now. Where on the other hand, it didn't matter. I'll be like, pull the trigger. You pulled it out, because that's what I was about. But again, my mind was maturing and I was out living that role, so to speak, and the lifestyle where I was like, wow, I may not live if I answer the question that's being asked. And I got asked, where are you from? And everything froze.
Okay.
And what was about 3 minutes, what was about 3 seconds felt like 3 minutes, and it got cloudy at that moment. And I knew what came out of my mouth right now may determine or will determine whether I live or die.
Wow.
And being so loyal and committed, I said where I was from. And because there was no conflict, he let me ride. He gave me that pass, and I wouldn't be here talking to you right now. But it was that moment, John. I drove away, and mind you, I was on my way back from trade school. I was now working a legit job.
Yeah.
Stopped selling drugs.
Right.
And I went to go put air in my tire, and I got into this altercation. And that was what shifted Paul into this. Like, if that's what I needed, like if they pulled back the rubber band and boom, let me go, because now I'm going in that direction full on with that.
I understand.
And I remember going home, and my little brother Johnny, who's like 5 years younger than me, I got him in construction, but I took the 2 weeks off because I had to go to trade school. But I met him at my house with a coworker, and we would smoke weed still after work. So they're waiting for me, and I get there, and I'm telling my brother, we call each other our nicknames at the time and all that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, and I'm telling him, hey, you don't know what happened right now. And he's like, what? Where's she smoking? And I'm like, I almost didn't make it home today. And he's like, okay. And I'm going, nah. I go, you really don't get it. I go, I almost got killed. And he's like, well, what happened? And I go, this dude drew a gun on me. And he goes, all right, well, that ain't the first time. Like, come on. What are you tripping on?
Right.
And I go, and you know what? It it didn't shock me that he felt that way, because I've always felt that way too. Like, hey, that's what we signed up for.
Mm-hmm.
But I was so like, you're not getting it. And because a light bulb clicked, or the switch went on in my head, where like, you almost died. So I remember sharing that with him. He was disappointed, really disappointed to hear that out of my mouth. Like,
Oh, from you. Okay.
yeah, because hey, you're the reason why I do what I do and why I signed up,
Mhm.
you know, and it let him down in some ways. And I seen it. And again, I learned to kind of like, all right, keep that to myself. And going back, when I started having these thoughts of this lifestyle, I'm outgrowing and it's not attractive anymore.
Mhm.
I remember seeing the guys I looked up to that I wanted to be like, that I actually ended up becoming. Now, 15 years in the game, they're looking broke, busted, and disgusted. And I'm like, dang, not all of them, but some well-respected ones. And I was like, this is what I got to look forward to.
Mm.
Like, I don't want that. So that was Paul in Paul's mind. I was a imaginer. I was always in my head, like we said early on. And those were the thoughts that were running through my mind, but I didn't share them with anybody. Hey, this is not attractive to Paul anymore. And I was still thick in the game, still all about it, but having these thoughts now. And this is before I ran into the guy with the gun.
Yeah.
But it was those thoughts that little by little took me from there to this side, from that world to another world.
When I used the term bridge before, and
Yes.
I would love to use a cliche, address that now. Talk to me about the first time or an early time that you took this information or this sense of thinking and did something with it.
It was in the heat of things. It was in my prime. I was doing really well selling drugs,
Right.
well respected. And I don't say this in any way to puff myself up or make myself
Yeah.
sound like this ghetto superstar. But we were already at a place where, you know, we made a name for ourselves, me and, you know, a lot of our brothers.
Mhm.
And nobody knew. You wouldn't know if you were a fellow gang member that Paul was thinking this way.
Mhm.
And I sure wasn't going to share that with
Well,
you.
as you say, because you just didn't or learned to not do so. When
Yeah.
did that change?
I'm sorry, John, when did what change?
The ability to say, you know what, I am going to share this with somebody. I am
Uh,
going to do this. Or, I'm sorry,
eh,
I said that wrong. I am going to do something with this.
yeah. Okay. Okay. So making the change and doing it are two different
It
things.
always is.
Yeah.
It always is, right?
And especially in my situation, because now I was selling drugs, took an offer of one of my clients, we'll call him. He was buying drugs,
Right?
and he was only buying weed. I was selling meth and all that, but
Mm.
he was buying weed. He was only a weed customer. And for some odd reason, John, every now and then, and I'm talking a span of maybe a year to 2 years, he would ask Paul, you want to work? What do you mean, do I want to work?
Mhm.
I sell drugs. Like, I don't need to work. I make
Yeah.
great money.
I am
I
working.
I was arrogant
Mhm.
back then too. And I told him something like this, like, you know what? I probably make more than your superintendent.
Mhm.
I was real prideful and arrogant back then. And he was cool with it. Like, oh, all right, I thought I'd ask. And in my head, why? What would make you ask that? You do you know where you're at? You know?
Mhm.
And like I said, he felt the need again and he asked me again years later, maybe a couple years later, give or take. And at that time, he caught Paul at a good a good time in my life where it wasn't a good time. It's actually a bad time to be
Or
in.
maybe the right time.
It was the right time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was battling. I was already having those thoughts. This lifestyle is not attractive. It's going to take me under. I already know.
Got it.
Because I already went to prison when I was young for sales and GTA. I already had felonies for that. And now it's at a higher scale. Now the guns are bigger, the drugs, the amount's bigger, and so is the money. I knew I was going to go down for something pretty big, but I was deep in. I had a lot of responsibility pulling on me. I felt like there's no way I can stop doing this. You know what? My wife and kids, they're depending on this. You know, the drug dealers that I deal with, they're depending on these transactions. The addicts are depending on their drugs. So the expectations were too high. And I felt like there's no way, just because Paul's in his head and he's having these thoughts, they're out of reach. There's no way that he's going to make that happen. Like, there's no way I'm going to be able to switch. But like you said, it was the right time.
Yeah.
I was battling in my mind and he asked me that. And I'm not going to say, oh yeah, it was a sign and I felt it and I took it. No, something, for some odd reason, the words came out of my mouth, I'll try it. And I even thought, what are you doing? But I did. I told him, hey, I'll take you up on that. You know, hey, what's the worst thing that could happen? I don't know. And I did. And that was very awkward because now I'm getting up. It was a very awkward event, or I don't know how you say it. I know what I want to say. I can't say, but to be selling drugs and then say yes to this. And now I'm waking up early in the morning and putting on some boots and going and working with this guy. Very, very awkward turn of events for me.
People use the word humbling for that sort of thing, in a way that it's like, oh my God, I got to get up early now. I got to show up. I told them I'd show up, so I show up. And the money and the situation, and if you're doing it and the weather's not conducive, and that's what I mean by humbling. I know you know what the word means, but what I mean is that it's like, that it's, so the question then becomes, in the midst of that, what kept you doing it?
Okay, I'm going to just go off what you were saying because I want to correct it for my story's sake. I like my stuff to be true as it could be. When I say something, and I didn't feel, I've been there, John, where I felt like stepping into something, and it's usually when it's something that's decreasing and something I don't want to do. I feel I'm in that humble state where I'm going to do it anyways. In this case, I felt weird. Like, what are you doing?
Okay.
I felt awkward. Like,
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, you don't have to do this. Why are you even doing this? A matter of fact, you're going to lose money going to work. Great money. And who's going to hold down the fort and all that? But anyways, I went. And what kept me, through observation, looking back, what I seen was Paul was experiencing something finally out of that box. I was out of that box, and it was like, wow. I felt, John, I know you know, like I know, you've heard the cartoon, The Jetsons. You've seen the commercial at the very least. The jet, you know.
Oh yeah.
You know, it looks real busy. That was me at 5 a.m. Like, wow, people get up and drive the freeways and the off ramps and the freeway. And I got coffee and it was a new experience for Paul.
I love this.
Now I'm associating with people that make an honest living. And it's that light of that started shining on the darkness that I was living in. I was like, wow. You talk a good talk. You sound good here working around these people. In other words, I was in secret. Little did they know I was selling drugs when I got home. In construction, you get up early and you come home early. If you're local, you can show up at your house at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
And for me, nobody knew Paul was getting up and going to work. I would go straight in the house as fast as I could, shower, put on my clothes, my street clothes, and I was on the block selling again. I was, selling drugs. And at this time, I had lots of people waiting for me. The line was pretty long because I was gone all morning, all day. So with that being said, that light was shining on that. And I started seeing the contrast, like, wow, good, bad, honest, and that's what made me think I need to stop this. This is where I felt like, hey, what you're doing is really wrong. Then I started seeing and recognizing and thinking of the cost. I'm going to lose my family and kids. And I want to go back to your question earlier that led up to this. What made you stop and keep going this route? I can't take the credit. I can't. My wife had enough. The area was getting shot up really bad. When I met my wife, we met in the early 90s, right after the Wild Wild West ended, I'll say. It was like capital murder city where I lived. It was like really on and popping as far as gangs, and that's when drive-bys was a thing. And if you were a gang member, you were doing drive-bys, which is shooting from your car at other gang members. So that was big, and then they stopped that. The higher up said, nope, we ain't doing that. Innocent people are getting hit. So then there was walk-offs. I was heavy into that. We were gunners. We were doing that. And again, I don't even like saying that because it kind of sounds like if I'm bragging, but it is what it is. With that being said, my grandparents' house was like Swiss cheese at times. It was getting hit a lot. And it's sad because I didn't realize it later until taking observation of that as I got older. Man, my grandparents had to die experiencing that.
Wow.
Their grandkids going that route and bringing it home. And little did I know that was a family secret, or it wasn't a secret. It just didn't need to be said. We didn't hear and we didn't know when we were little that your dad's a gang member, your uncles, your mom. So with that being said, my grandpa already experienced gang activity with his kids. And he probably thought it's going to skip a generation. And then we got pulled in. By the tail end, we were going a whole other route. We weren't interested in gangs. It wasn't a thing. And these older gang members that we knew just recruited a couple youngsters, and it grew like wildfire quick. And we got caught into that. And we're from the 90s era when we were most active, at least we call it gang banging, being active gang members. So I say all that to say, I met my wife after that calmed down. My grandparents already had passed. There wasn't many shootings at our house anymore. And that's when I connected with my wife. I say all that to say, fast forward, I don't take the credit. My wife's the one that said, I'm out of here. And I'm like, what? Yeah, one of our kids are going to get shot. They're shooting up and down the block, this and that. I go, well, you don't need to worry about that. To me, again, the mentality I was, working with back then, it was like, I got AKs and Tech 9s and I got it. You don't need to worry about that. I take care of that. We got it sewed up. I got, my homies out here too. And she's like, no, you don't get it. And she was this serious, John. She rented a U-Haul, emptied the house, turned all the bills off, and found herself a spot in a different location and took the kids and left. And I was so embedded in that culture and lifestyle that I was like, this is all I know. How are you going to take me from here? There's no way I can leave here. This is who I am. There's no way I can leave. And I go, and to me, I don't think she got it and I didn't get her, but she moved on it. And then a month goes on and I'm working, selling drugs. I got a cord up. Oh, excuse me. I got a cord up to my twin brothers. And because I was paying half the rent up there. I was the crazy manager of a fourplex, duplex.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Sure.
I got to move in people, and the contracts came to me when they signed them. I'm the one that gave them to them. They signed them and gave them to me, so I got to pick who was going to live there. And I picked family and one of my homies and some down to earth people because I sold drugs. I didn't want somebody that was not going to be good with that.
Right.
So with that being said, I was able to run a cord up to my twins and my families, and now I have electricity. And I stood there a whole month in an empty apartment.
Wow.
And that's how long it took me to go, what is wrong with you, Paul? What are you doing? Why are you still here? And I was going through that battle in my mind, like, and I was, it's going to sound crazy, but I was in some ways talking to myself in my mind, like, no, but you can't leave. And just this wrestling in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, I came to the point where I got to go with my family. Like, I got to go see, my family. And I remember going, I spent the night a couple of times and I was like, all right, maybe I could do this. We were at home, I had a 3-bedroom apartment, 2-bathroom, 2-car garage, little backyard. Now we're at a 1-bedroom apartment in a different city, a different county. But even with that being said, thinking I can never leave, once I left, it was like, wow, again, Paul's out of that box some more. And I was like, I had no desire to want to go back. I experienced this and it was like, wow. So in some ways, Paul was experiencing things and the little attachments, little by little, were getting cut, and I was like, wow, this is what it's like to be married, have kids, and not have to attend this lifestyle.
And be free.
Yeah. And in some ways I felt guilty and I felt weak. I felt like I was going to be looked down upon. But I knew, because I was already outgrowing and maturing in the head, that, you know what, this is the right move for, if not me, my family. Like, hey, I got to pick. Am I going to do this or not? And it wasn't gravy. It wasn't sunshine and rainbows and all that. It came with a lot of trials, taking that step.
But a massive step. Now, do you mind if I want to layer in the opportunity that goes with second acts. So you had said earlier, and you haven't seen me on social media for a while. I want to focus on seeing you on social media, and I want to focus on, at this point, carrying the message. So you had alluded to, and I had asked before, now I'll ask a second time, the sense of you seeking to speak to other people. You answered the question, but it's your ability to carry a different message. I'm saying outward, kind of inward too. I don't mean inward to you, but you're carrying the message now to inmates. And I want to focus on this for a few minutes because to me, this is wildly cool in regards to your ability to be able to do this. So, what you talked about with me, customizing messages, I want to talk about this, that you're going in. What are you talking about, and how does that go?
Okay, well, thank you for asking that, John. But I do want to take one little step back and say this one little thing.
Sure.
Because you had asked the first time.
Yeah.
And I get stuck in story, and there I go.
But go ahead.
To that first question regarding giving back or doing something, in regards to something positive, I was selling drugs, working, and got tricked into going to a presentation to hear a lady speak. And there was lunch on the line, John.
Oh, so
there
that
was
was
lunch
the
on the
right,
line, and I was
it
like,
was a
whatever,
sandwich.
whatever you want to do, as long as we're going to lunch. Yeah. So he asked, like, hey, can we go watch this lady? It was a relative of mine, this great guy named Pep. And I went with them, sat there. It was in Spanish.
Mhm.
It was actually a district attorney doing a family presentation for parenting.
Right.
And I didn't know he was going to do this, but because he was a relative, he knew because I've naturally shared story with him. And he was like, he set me up. He told the lady, hey, he has a really good story. I want him to share. He don't know Spanish. I need a translator. And she trusted him enough to get me up there. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, I don't do this. This is not what I do. Anyways, because I'm kind and nice, the person that I am, I said yes. All right, I'll go share. And I didn't know even where to begin or whatever, but I did. I shared, and it made such an impact on the district attorney that she's like, we need to go to lunch. You know, me and my colleague, we're going to meet with you. We want to go to lunch. And again, lunch was on the line. I was like, all right, where are we going?
Right. Great.
You know, so we went to a farmer's, and basically I'll sum it up with this. They signed me up.
Nice.
And that's what took me off into that.
Mhm.
And it was something that Paul didn't like doing. That was humbling because I couldn't even carry a conversation one-on-one without feeling like I stumbled in my words, or I should have said that. Why did I say this? Every conversation I left with that in my brain.
Okay.
You know, so because I didn't need to be like real articulate or fluent in my speech being a gang member. You just need to be quiet. The less said, the better. Look hard, take flight. So it worked in my behalf.
Yeah.
In that box, in that world.
Mm-hmm.
But over here, I learned if you don't, an open mouth don't get fed. You need to speak up and be clear. And, you know, so I started doing this thing that I didn't really set out to do and want to do, but I seen the impact on the youth.
Mm-hmm.
And in this way, not like, oh yeah, you're going to change my life, but like you can relate, you know, because of the way I share my stories. It's not just a gang story.
Mm-hmm.
Paul got in a gang, and there's all these other, you know, aspects of my story that can reach anybody in the room.
Yes.
So that's where that took off. And now to your other question, it's evolved over the years. My stories, the story's still the story, but I've learned how to, like I said, I've been doing is taking observation
Mm-hmm.
of little stories in itself. And I'm talking just Paul's upbringing, getting in the gang, not getting out because I never did. And I've mentioned that before. Like I don't like being I don't like being introduced as the former gang member.
Former.
I would cringe like,
Mm-hmm.
And because two reasons of many reasons, but two reasons, because especially when I would go speak with certain people, they would, before I would go up, make the gang member look so ugly and dirty and foul. And then we got the gang specialist. We got somebody that knows that life very well.
Mm-hmm.
And mind you, I was speaking from a place where I'm still in my hood. When I took that job in construction, I was living in my neighborhood. I was active. And when I took that lunch meeting, didn't know I was going to go watch somebody speak, I was still living in my hood. So they were getting somebody raw straight off the street
Mm-hmm.
now into these schools. And I was sharing my story, and a story of many stories that were about me and my brothers and stuff. I would share stuff, my twin brother.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's evolved. Now I'm at a place where not don't just speak at schools, I go into the halls.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned something being in there. Life experience alone is only going to get you so far. Mm-hmm. It gets exhausted really quick.
Yep.
You could only use so much of that. And going in with just curriculum and book smarts is only going to get you so far. And I even seen this observation of that. They would prefer, if they had to pick one or the other, I'd rather take the guy with full life experience than this curriculum. What do you know? How do you relate with me? So, but I was mindful, and I observe my classes. I don't just go in for a paycheck, here's the curriculum. Did you get it? Yeah, no, whatever, and leave. No, I'm looking at my audience. I'm observing. How did they receive it? Are they receiving it? What is their feedback? How are the moods changing? Because really, you come in, for a lack of better words or term, you come in with this little bit of power to shift and alter the atmosphere for an hour. You could either come in and drop the ball, or you could come in and get them off whatever they're going through that may not be good, and not so much take them out of there, but get their mind on something else for the good or the bad. Like, you could either go in and it be successful, or it goes south and you drop the ball or whatever. And I've had all of the above, like, man, that didn't go well, and again, I go in with a heart to really reach them. And I study the sessions that we're having. I play them back, and how did they go? And I would bring additional material in with the curriculum my job was sending me with.
Right.
And I was making these fit for them, what they're going through in present time, and knowing what I know out of these individuals, which ones are gang members and which ones are addicts or ex-drug users. I shouldn't say addicts, but they experience certain things. So I'm really observant, and now I'm able to make these curriculums or add additional sheets to them and bring them in. And it was almost, and it's not a project, or like, I see them as a project, but I was able to test my material. And they noticed at work, hey, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm putting stuff together that I feel relates, that I feel that the curriculum is not addressing, and I'm making things that are applicable to them. And they're like, wow. And over time, they're like, hey, do you like doing that? And I go, I do, because there's a need. And I got asked, hey, would you mind being in charge of designing the curriculum?
Wow.
All in all. And this covers anger management, substance awareness, financial literacy, food handlers, on and on. We cover a lot of subjects, a lot of subject matters and topics. And I'm able to put my hands on that and formulate and create, a curriculum.
Paul, is there one underlying message that matters to you that you think resonates most to them currently? Like, you brought up 5 different specializations, right? But what would you say right now in your mind is the most important message that needs to be conveyed, or that resonates the most with these individuals? One overlying theme.
It's hard to narrow, because it's a very, I would say, I have to be so strategic that I have to come in so many different ways, because you got a population that some of them like what they're doing at the present moment. That's just a badge of honor, going in there and doing that time. Right. And then they're back on the streets saying, yeah, I did time. And then you got some that don't want to be there. And just all these different personalities and characteristics and roles they're playing, that there isn't just one method or one way that it's going to hit, because there's many different things you're dealing with. But I think, if I could say the word correctly, because authenticity, just coming in real.
Thank you.
And the information that you are bringing that is from the books is you're able to facilitate that well and mesh them together. I think that meshing really helps them, like, versus just coming in and bringing the curriculum and saying it as it is. Meshing the lifestyle, I think it makes it more interesting, especially when you could talk about the brain. You know,
Yeah.
how when I let them know, look, you guys don't notice this now, and I didn't either, but getting this curriculum, teaching it to you guys, and then not only that, formulating something that's more relatable and applicable, help me understand some things through observation of my life, that, hey, the reason why all that looks so exciting to Paul growing up was not just because it is, but scientifically, my brain wasn't fully developed. My prefrontal cortex wasn't fully developed. Therefore, crazy, wild, stupid things at a young age seem cool. And like, yeah, this is fun. But I've learned that's what was happening when my prefrontal cortex was developing when I was 25, like scientifically they say for males. I didn't know that was happening. I thought, oh, Paul's just seeing things differently, but it was that. But there was something going on in the brain. And once I didn't know that at the present time back then, but I knew it later going through all this curriculum, like, wow, that's what was going on. And now I see it. So now I'm able to share with them, look, it looks crazy and wild and fun and all that now, but it won't. It won't later. Your brain is going to think different. And in the midst of that, thinking it's cool, fun, and, crazy, there's going to come a high cost that may come with these things. I don't know what it looks like for you, because I'm big on choices and consequences. And I don't share it as much. If I have a 8 to 10 week class with these particular participants, I'll share it once maybe, and then I'll share it again, maybe again at the end.
Right.
But I'll share it with you as well, John. This is what I came up with, because Paul's brain is kind of weird to some people, but because it is the way it is, I'm always thinking of slogans and quotes and this and that. I love doing it for no reason. I just do it. So in the midst of my speaking, I made this quote, and I always make a joke. This wise man made this quote, and I'll share it with you guys. And then I'll say Paul Espinosa at the end.
Please.
But it's a joke as well. But I say this. Look, you guys, we have, how do I start it? What I like to talk about is choices and consequences, because it's something we all relate with. Everybody in the room, I don't care what walk of life, we all have the power to pick and choose whatever it is we want to do, and that's a given. But on the flip side of that coin, we don't got the power to pick and choose what consequences may follow. That's my line. That's what I came up with.
Wow.
And I get to share that in the beginning. I share it at the end, because I say for Paul's life, growing up, my story looks like this. 3 young guys dropped out of high school very early on, joined a gang within a year and a half, give or take. The guy, my best friend, my twin, the 3 of us that dropped out and joined, in a short amount of time, friend gets a life sentence for a shooting he was involved in. We're barely a year in our gang officially. After that, twin gets shot and paralyzed. 3 guys that were doing the same thing. That's where I got this from. 3 guys that were doing the same activity, 3 different outcomes. We don't get to pick and choose the consequences. Why did Paul kind of skate? Why did Paul get away with all that? Why did they pay a cost? I don't know. We don't got the power to pick and choose. We don't know. So with that being said, with them, maybe that's the one thing that gets them or makes them feel like, wow, all right, that's something to chew on. I don't know how that's going to look for you. Why that worked for me, I don't know. And I always have that question. Is my twin looking at me right now? maybe thinking, why me, not Paul? Why did I end up paralyzed? We did the same stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think, why didn't I get paralyzed and he did? And I don't like to even entertain the thought.
No.
Yeah. But again, to my point, we don't got the power to pick and choose the consequences.
That's such a powerful thing. I'm so glad you shared that to me and with our audience too, because that's the thing, which is there's a difference, and I said it earlier, between thinking and doing. And you are clearly doing. And because of that, it's not just the impact on you, it's the impact on people around you. Paul Espinosa, that's a beautiful conversation, man. I'm honored and I'm flattered and I'm grateful that we get to call each other friends. Thank you so much for showing up for me today, man.
Thank you for having me.
1000%. So folks know that two things. One, Paul's Instagram page, that link will be in the bio too, is a must follow. It's really important to me because I get to learn a lot too. It's fun and it's interesting and I still get to learn a lot. And as I said, and our first episode, we'll say the setup episode, will be in the bio as well too. But I meant what I said, Paul, our relationship continues to unfold because it's just become a great one for me. So thank you. I'm very grateful to you.
Thank you. I really appreciate being here.
100%. Me too, man. Thank you so much, folks, for tuning in to another episode of Your Message Received. Keep liking, watching, sharing, and we will keep driving more content through your front door. John Duffin here with Duffin Media. Have a great rest of the day, folks. Be well. We'll talk soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
And now, making its way across the finish line, Your Message Received has been a production of Duffin Media.